As we have been discussing, this is a lease workshop that is typically a two-day event. So rather than going through every single provision of the lease, what we've decided to do is extract key provisions that are talked about a lot, during the transaction. Let me introduce our instructors. My good friend George Pincus is a real estate attorney with Stearns Weaver in Fort Lauderdale. He's a transactional real estate attorney, primarily office, industrial, retail, and build-to-suit leasing. And the interesting part for us is that he's on landlord just as often as he's on the tenant side. So what we'll be doing is we'll be looking for the landlord rep to advocate for the landlord position, and then we'll be looking for the tenant rep to do the same for the tenant side. George is a Kane, went to Law School, and
I just went to law school there. I don't.
Just the law school.
Really.
You don't go around doing this.
I don't care about that stuff.
But the other interesting thing about George's practice is he's also frequently involved in the financing piece and the assemblage of the capital stack on acquisition. So really, from soup to nuts in the real estate transaction, he's the guy. George and I have also served on NAIOP together. He was the South Florida president, as well as sitting on the national board for many years. Nat Nguyen is with TA, one of our biggest clients, and Nat has graciously accepted to help us to instruct this morning. He's been with TA since '07. His primary focus in the last several years is asset management with oversight over 4 million square feet. He was also spent some time in the acquisitions group and put together about $1 billion worth of product there. And he's also in the portfolio management committee with oversight over the value add and the core separate account fund, which is over $2 billion. Prior to TA, he was an officer in the Navy, went to the Naval Academy, and after that he was unable to get into Clemson, so he went to Harvard Business School to learn more about the real estate business. So welcome Nat. And last but not least is one of our own, Mark Montgomery with Avis & Young in Jacksonville. Mark and I go way back to girls softball coaching days, which those stories will remain quiet today. But Mark spent several years with Trammell Crow, CV, even Lincoln Property Company when they had the Bank of America account. So 11 of those years of his career, he transacted over 9 million square feet and 700 transactions for Bank of America in the state of Florida. So he was responsible for all of the B of A real estate in the state of Florida. So he's quite experienced on the tenant side. And a lot of those transactions were complicated. They were build-to-suits or land leases or headquarter type office leases. So he's really seen a lot of the different transaction types on the tenant side. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the lease provision. These folks will take turns introducing the concept, give you a brief explanation of what the concept really means, and then from either the landlord or the tenant perspective, why it's important for them to advocate for a certain position. And then if at some point, which may be each time, there's a tie, right, as to how would we resolve this as a broker, we're going to ask George, the attorney, so how have you seen in your experience that you might mitigate or come to a resolution with that? Last but not least, I think most of you in the room are brokers. We've got some property managers in the room as well. And I've always taken pride on being able to deliver the lease to the property manager with lots of fun for them to try to enforce what we negotiated or what we gave away. But from the broker side, there's two schools of thought on your role as a broker in the transaction, and that is some brokers tend to be hands-off, and they sort of let the attorneys, do battle and beat each other up and sort of cross their fingers and hope everything works out and get their commission. That's not the school that I'd like to coach you all into going. I'd like you all to be very much hands-on. I'd like you to know every provision in the lease agreement inside and out and be able to advocate for that position based on whether you're representing the tenant or whether you're representing the landlord. The relationship with the attorney is important. So our role is to focus on the business issues, let the attorney do his or her job on the legal issues, and keep a good relationship with the advocacy side with the attorney so that neither the broker nor the attorney runs away and hijacks the transaction, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about the client. The last thing I'm going to say in respect to Nat's position is that in 30 years, I've seen brokers disagree with a client. It's okay to disagree, right? So there's an old saying, learn how to disagree without being disagreeable. It's his right to say no, even if you think it's the wrong answer, or say yes, even if you think it's the wrong answer. So your position, your opinion is fine, and you let it known, but at the end of the day, this is the guy with the risk, right? This is the guy that his job is on the line if he makes a really bad decision. The only thing on the line for you is your fee at the end of the day, or even a listing, right? But so it's very important that you understand how to yield to the client. Let your position be known, take it to a certain point, and then if the client it's important for them to hold on to a position, you back off. And that's just being a good service provider. You can pay me later.
Wait, how many bad decisions did you let me make?